Hi, everybody. This is your old pal, Uncle Hondo, and we welcome you back to the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. I'm your Sports Illustrated beat writer who covers the Raiders. This guy joining me, this is his third time. He's one of our new writers, recent graduate of Central Michigan University. Now he's one of our staff writers helping me cover the Raiders, Michael France. Michael, good to have you, bud.
Good to be here again on for Raider Nation. Thank you for having me.
We got a lot to get into today. We're going to talk about the quarterback battle, which I know everybody cares about. But first, I want to dig in, Michael, and I want to talk about uh, Tom Telesco. We talked about this a lot before the draft, trying um, I'm trying to think of the right word. Give me 1 second. Trying to foreshadow what was coming. That under Telesco, it's going to be a lot like what it was under Ziegler. That, and by the way, I apologize about my voice. I'm battling strep throat, but um, it was going to be a lot like under Ziegler, where they were becoming investors and not gamblers. Now, very quickly, you can have 1 million people go to Vegas, take $1,000 and gamble it, and all but one is going to lose. Then one guy's going to win or one gal's going to win big. That's being a gambler. Or you can be like the others who take that $1,000 and invest it. One may lose it because of a bad investment, but the rest, if they get a good financial advisor, are going to turn it into something. Everyone wants to be the gambler, but the odds are against the gambler. The Raiders have gone from to gamblers to investors. Best player available that fits the mindset, the position, the way they want to play it. Great draft by the Raiders. Your thoughts, Michael?
Yeah, we foreshadowed it. We did the big draft ranking. We looked at all the past teams the last 10 years, who are at the top in terms of the worst with the most top 10 picks, who are at the bottom, who are the best drafters. You see a lot of correlations between taking risks and playing it safe and developing long term and just not sleeping on the huge trait that is player development. We're talking like a Kansas City, a Pittsburgh, a Green Bay, just to name a few. And I love this draft from the Raiders. We never, didn't sell, didn't trade any picks. We stuck to our core values of what we want in the locker room and what we want from a physical trait standpoint. And so it was a really good draft class from the Raiders.
I shared with you before the draft my frustration that Raider fans were really getting played and pumped up for something that was not going to happen. And I think if people, this is where I think you and I as journalists, we're not fans. And I think it helps you and I because we're not trying to bring something that we want. If I had been making this draft, I would have taken Talise Fawaga, but I have no issues with Brock Bowers. He's one of those three generational dogs, him and Joe Alt and Talise Fawaga. So I have no problem with it. Plus, my job doesn't hinge on whether or not Bowers succeeds. Theirs does. And I always take the fact the person has the most to lose is the one you judge. But when you look at this draft and you look at how they handled it, it was a masterful draft. And I thought Tom Telesco just banged it out of the park. I thought Mark Davis did in the hiring of the staff. I thought Antonio Pierce did in setting the mindset that he wanted. And I wanted to go back because I haven't had a chance to discuss this with you. I asked a NFL executive what he thought of the Raiders draft. And I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said, when you look at the draft, Tom Telesco picked all AP guys. And a lot of general managers, if they haven't hired the coach, are going to hedge their bet for when they fire him, who the next guy is going to be. And he said the fact that the guys that Telesco picked clearly told him Tom Telesco is all in on Antonio Pierce. I thought that was one of the most underreported things. I was so glad that executive told me that. I'd like your thoughts. I thought that was powerful.
Yeah, and it's our job as the media to really shed a light on that because I think outside of all the misinformation around the draft that you've harped on with your podcast and just all that stuff, we need to be discussing this. I mean, people don't understand, and Bill Polian came on about a month ago. killed it with his, and he talked about it too. There needs to be that cohesion, that direction that the coach and the GM got to be on the same page. The GM has to draft the players at the end of the day that the coach is going to coach. And you see that like in a Detroit situation. Now you're seeing that with Telesco and Pierce, and hopefully we can get to a situation like Detroit's. And I really think we could because Antonio Pierce has a lot of traits that
Wait,
remind
wait,
me
wait,
of a
wait, wait.
Dave
I got to
Campbell.
ask you because you just said I hope we can get to Detroit.
At the
Are you
Raiders.
working for the Raiders now or Sports Illustrated?
No, sir. Sorry. Bad. Always slip with that. No, the Raiders.
You're
The
young. You're a
Raiders.
young journalist. You're learning.
Yeah, the Raiders have that cohesion between Pierce and Telesco. You saw it with the draft. They're going to go for true blue football guys, dogs, as you would say, and guys who maybe if the traits aren't necessarily there, or a lot of teams don't really like what they see on tape. They see guys that have the intangibles, those characteristics, the leadership quality, the work ethic, the gym rat, football gym rat trait that Pierce can work with. And it's all about, whatever happened to letting stuff ferment and letting players be coached. Not everyone's going to be, Pro Bowl, like a Sam Laporta or, just a pop day one. Okay. Let's develop. We say we got 3 years. You get 3 years for a player. And a lot of these guys, I think, can be that. And I think for some of them, and we'll get into it, I think a lot of them, the timetable could actually be sped up for, they could be better than the third year sooner.
They could, but you don't speed it up. You don't. That's not fair to the player. I've done that in the past as an older journalist, and it's not fair. You got to let them each have their own. I mean, if you look, uh, let's just get right into it. So I had a NFL executive. I talked about this the other day. Say to me, if Aiden O'Connell had been a first round draft pick, there is no one that would have been talking about getting rid of him. No one. I mean, you look at how he did 3-1 down the stretch, last 5 games, 9 touchdowns, 1 interception. He said people would be talking about him as a potential Pro Bowler, but because he's picked in the 4th round and other people discounted him, so they hyped, any other quarterback than him. He's been really disrespected. I thought that was brilliant analysis by that NFL executive. I'd love your thoughts on that.
And I was actually just talking about something similar with a friend about the draft and how we put so much. And obviously, each round is, of course, different. Each round's value does matter because of the way the bracket is and the pay and the value and contracts and all that. But when you look at it as from a player standpoint, sometimes I feel like we could do away with the titles of this round pick, that round pick. Let's talk top 100, top 110 best players in the draft. Aiden O'Connell was one of them. So and like a third round pick this year, a second round pick this year, I almost didn't want to call them that. I almost wanted to call them their top 60, top 80 in the draft. This was a stacked draft, for example. So Aiden O'Connell, I wish, yeah, the 4th round label, if we could just look past that, you just take away that title.
But you can't. You can't look past it because
Yeah.
it's reality. And but the reality is if do we just blame Max Crosby because he wasn't a first rounder? I mean, the point of the matter is you have to give players 3 years. Now, there's some cases like when they picked Damon Arnett, I knew immediately that was a bad pick. Alex Leatherwood, there were other teams that wanted him too. It wasn't just the Raiders, but I remember saying, "Hey, this is their pick. They got to ride with it. They'll live with it. Let's go." I It amazes me in our society, and we don't just see it in football. We see it in real life where people just want to throw people away and man, you got to let people grow. There's a lot of things I did at 22 or 25 that I wouldn't do sitting here at 53, but there's things I did at 50 I wouldn't do at 53. You got to let people grow, don't you?
Yeah, and I want to go back real quick. I had a slippage of words about the not speeding up guys, but what I meant to say was I think a lot of guys instead of like all right, is it going to take until 3 years? Maybe their development they could be better sooner is what I meant. But I
Yeah.
agree. Look at like a Jacorian Bennett. Look at like a lot of these younger guys on the team. Uh, Give them time. There's a lot of whispers around the organization that the Raiders are really excited about. And listen to the football guys. You talked about this on a recent podcast. Listen to the football guys, not just the media, the talking heads. The football people know, and what they've been saying, I'm trusting and I'm liking.
That's why on this show, I don't care what you think, and you shouldn't care what I think. But that's why we talk about what are the football people saying? What, because their opinions are what matters. All right, let's turn to the quarterback battle. I want to spend some time here. The Raiders have made it very clear. We were the ones that broke the story. Brian and Jimmy were not coming back. We were the ones that said we expected them to draft a quarterback and to sign a veteran. They signed a veteran. Going into the third day on the draft, if people were to go to Apple or Spotify and listen to my daily exclusive podcast, which is audio called Riding with Hondo and Dexter, I had been tipped off by someone within the organization that the Raiders probably weren't going to draft anyone on day 3 either. That was just where they were, that they were probably going to go the UDFA route. And so they did. There's a couple guys that got selected. I think they were surprised at where they fell. That's why they thought they would draft, but they didn't. But they get a UDFA guy. They've got Anthony Brown already. The Raiders have made it clear. Antonio Pierce has made it clear. Tom Telesco's made it clear. This is Aiden O'Connell's job to win. Now, we're not sitting here at the Las Vegas Raiders Insider podcast or at Sports Illustrated saying it's a given Aiden's the quarterback. It's a given that it's his job, but it's also a given it's going to be a free competition. So whoever does suit up game 1 as the starter, they will have won it. It is fair to say it's Aiden's to lose. That's 100% accurate. But to act like there's no battle is foolish. And I'm seeing some people now, oh, it's a given. It's given. It's Minshew's job. Well, they can say whatever they want. Their opinion doesn't matter. I'm telling you what the people inside are telling me. It is Aiden's. He's going to have to hold it. Everyone's going to get a chance to compete, and we'll see what happens. I think this is going to be the story of the summer.
I agree. I think it's going to be an awesome QB battle to witness because what you got is you got a guy in O'Connell who has a chip on his shoulder, who is a fierce competitor who's been competing his whole life to be a quarterback, right? And then at the same time, you got Gardner Minshew, who's about as also as scrappy as they come. I mean, he almost reminds me of like a Baker Mayfield with that mentality. Like he is a battler, he's a gamer. Uh, it is going to be very interesting. It is going to be interesting to see who wins that battle. But I can say this: I feel we can trust this coaching staff. And when the fall comes and it is time for week 1, this is the starter. I feel like we can be pretty confident in this with this culture, this coaching staff, we can be pretty confident in we'll have the right guy going forward with these two. I think both are good competitors and it's going to be a tough battle, but the winner is going to be the winner.
All right, Michael thinks we'll have the right guy going forward. I hope they have the right guy going forward, whoever that is. Let's keep moving along. One of the things that I love is Aiden O'Connell. People act like he's a snowflake or he can't. This kid doesn't mind the criticism, loves the coaching, comes in, embraces Gardner, has done everything to make Gardner feel welcome. He's comfortable in his skin. I always laugh when people were like, well, before the draft, they want another quarterback, but they don't want to hurt Aiden's feelings. They didn't care about Aiden's feelings, and Aiden didn't care if they hurt his feelings. He understood. I got to go compete. It's what I've done my whole career. He gets that. I think it's cool the way Aiden's handled it. I think it's cool the way Gardner's handled it. And I know the way the two men have handled it, it's made the locker room closer.
I agree. I see both of them as guys who are comfortable in their own skin, as you mentioned. They're just scrappy guys, competitors. They always watching them play, you don't get the sense they get too flustered. They just have that it about them that's just this toughness and this resolve. And yeah, Aiden O'Connell seems to be under control. He doesn't seem like this. There is all this pressure of you're about to lose your job. You're about to lose your job. He's like, no, he knows it's his, and he's also like, I'm going to go out and compete for it because he in his heart believes he is the right starting quarterback, and he's going to play like it.
I laugh, and I'll put this in perspective. My wife is so out of my league. I mean, everything about her. And I would laugh if somebody said, I'm going to steal your wife from you. No, you're not. No, you're not. I mean, And I love that Aiden's confidence is okay. I'm okay with you thinking he's going to beat me because what you think doesn't matter. I'm going to get a chance to put my resume on the field, like AP said. I love that. And I love Gardner, who's come in and been nothing but respectful. He has not been a jerk. He's been like this. I'm hearing players brag about their relationship. I believe Gardner's coming in has made the Raiders better. And here's why. If Aiden keeps the job, they're going to know he competed and won it. If Minshew wins it, they're going to know he competed and won it. But both guys are doing what's best in the interest of the silver and black and not each other. That's all you can ask for, Michael.
And it goes right back to Telesco and Pearson, the culture they've built. They are guardians of that locker room. You need to have the best locker room possible, the best environment, family, team, culture. And this team is unified and this team is a team. And it's almost you almost feel like it's a college team again, where we are really competing for our position day in and day out. And there's nothing set in stone, set contracts aside, set all that aside. We want the best players on the field.
It's going to be great to watch. All right. Give me a wild card. Give me a guy in this draft. I always, so you guys don't know this, but when I do interviews like this, we don't go over everything previously with Michael. I want him to learn how to operate on the balls of his feet, and he's doing a great job of it. So he doesn't know what questions I'm firing. Give me one guy in this draft that nobody's talking about, that Michael France says in 3 years, you're going to be talking about this guy. Who is he?
Trey Taylor. I think Trey Taylor just has everything. I think anything any football guy would want in a football player. He's tough. He IQ through the roof. Great athlete, physical player. He's a thumper at safety. He's got pedigree. Won the Jim Thorpe Award at Air Force, which I think the only other big time award they've only had one other big time national award winner. He's just a baller. He's got good ball skills. You talk about his discipline, his focus. Exactly. IQ out the roof. I mean, he went to a military academy. He's disciplined. He's focused. He's a class act too. And you get the sense that, he doesn't care about that seventh round grade. I don't think anyone ever does, but you get the sense he's going to be more than, seventh round picks are typically, practice squad, make the roster. You get the sense this guy's like, oh, I'm going to play. I'm seeing that field. I get that. I'm confident in him. I am.
You picked the same guy I was going to pick. I mean, we know about Bowers, we know about JPJ, but man, I just think Trey Taylor, he's him.
He's a
The
dude.
thing that got me, he had a chance to go a lot of places, but he picked Air Force Academy because of the education, because he wanted to serve his country. I mean, something special about that young man. Michael, always good to have you on each and every week. We'll get you back here next week. But thank you for joining us today. Tell everybody, where can they find you on X?
All right. At Michael France, Micajel, France spelled like the country, SI.
And don't forget, you can find me on AIG when you go to Hondo SR, or when you go to X, formerly known as Twitter, at Hondo Carpenter, and catch everything that Michael and I write when you go to si.com/NFL/Raiders. We'll see you tomorrow.